Chapter 4293. Go back and accept your punishment. Xianyuan Mose said calmly as he strode forward. Yes. Bai Qingqing did not dare to say more and just agreed. They slowly followed behind, and in front of them, Ying Yi had been watching from the dark. He watched as the two gangsters handed each of the two children a piece of silver and then gave them some candy. The two children happily kept the silver and skipped to Yu-Er's side. For you. Yu-Er looked at the two children who were nearly a head taller than her and blinked her eyes. She shook her head and said, Yu-Er won't eat. Daddy said I can't casually eat things given by others. Her soft voice softened the hearts of those who heard it. What's more, she put her little hands behind her back and shook her head with a determined look. This candy is delicious. Try a piece. One of the boys said as he handed the candy in his hand to her. No, Yu-Er is a good baby. Yu-Er must listen to Daddy. If Daddy says I can't eat it, then I can't eat it. She still shook her head and said as she stepped back. Seeing this, the two children kept the candy and said, Then we'll take you to play. There's something fun over there. They pointed to a direction in front of them. What is it? Yu-Er asked curiously and looked in the direction they were pointing. You'll know when we take you there. Yu-Er could not help but hesitate. But I sneaked out. If I don't go back for too long, Daddy will know. I have to go back. It's over there. It's very close. Go back after you see it. Let's go, we'll take you there. The two children said and stepped forward to hold her hand and led her to the front. Looking at his daughter being taken away, Xianyuan Mose looked at his son and asked, Did you see the problem? Yes, I saw it. Little Mu Chen looked like a little adult and nodded seriously. Then tell me, can your sister escape? Xianyuan Mose asked again. Mu Chen thought for a moment and shook his head. I don't know. Then let's go and have a look, Xianyuan Mose said as he led him forward. Arriving at a shabby courtyard, after the two children brought Yu-Er inside, they ran outside, and in a blink of an eye, they disappeared without a trace. Yu-Er only reacted after quite a while, but at that time, the courtyard door was already closed, and two men who came out of nowhere were also guarding the door. Hee, look at this dress, it's all top-quality goods. It seems like this little girl is the child of a rich family. So what if they're from a wealthy family? This is not the first time we have done this kind of thing. While speaking, both of them surrounded Yu-Er. A wretched smile appeared on his face. Which family's young miss are you? You should have a lot of valuable things on you, right? Quickly take it out for us uncles to see. Both of them loudly coaxed as they walked towards Yu-Er step by step. Yu-Er blinked her eyes and asked, Do you all want money? While speaking, she fished out something from her bosom. Yu-Er has it. While speaking, she took out something that looked like medicinal powder and threw it towards them. Bad people can't give money. Bad people, quickly go away, go away. Chapter 4294. Let go of me, let go of me, let go of me. The little person struggled, but was lifted up in the air. Her neck was strangled by the clothes, making her feel somewhat uncomfortable, making her feel afraid and also want to cry. Let go of you. Haha, now that you have fallen into our hands, you still want to escape. That's enough. Quickly check her things and see if she still has any money in her space. Taking advantage of the time when the sky is still not too late, we should directly sell her. Hearing these two people discussing, Yu-Er struggled, and taking advantage of one of them not paying attention, she stretched out her leg and kicked, directly kicking that person making him groan, and both of his hands covered the place between his legs. Because of the pain, the temper of that man also exploded, and he raised his hand wanting to hit her. In the dark, Xianyuanmo's coldly looked, and killing intent appeared in his eyes. He saw that if that person dared to hit his daughter, he would cripple that person. Are you crazy? This is merely a little milk baby who is not even 3 years old. If you slap her, will she still want her face? The other person beside him held his hand and berated in a low voice. This little girl has been kicking and jumping all over the place, truly hateful. That person said, and ferociously glared at you. You too are hateful, you too are bad people. She struggled, and like a wisp of smoke, she ran in the courtyard. Using her newly learned footwork, she chased after those two people. Come and catch me, come and catch me. Two men clenched their teeth and chased several laps, and discovered that even they were unable to catch up with the running speed of this little child, so they couldn't help but look at each other. Then one of them took out a small net, and directly tied her up. Ah! Let go of me, let go of me. You shouted in the net. Go, you quickly go and search her body, and take away all the valuable things from her body. One of them said, and hinted the other person to quickly come forward. The other person muttered while walking forward. Just when he was about to extend his hand towards you, Xianyuanmo's and others came out from the dark, and at the same time, a low and deep voice penetrated through with cold intent entered into the ears of those two people. Cut off 2 of their legs, cripple 1 of their hands, then throw them into beast garden to feed the beasts. Xianyuanmo's indifferently instructed. Ah! You, who are you people? Let me go, let me go. Yi, who was hiding in the dark, immediately appeared and picked up the 2 people who had turned pale with fright. Father! Seeing him, Yu couldn't help but call out in pleasant surprise. Sister, do you know that this is very dangerous? Little Mu Chin came forward and said, helping to remove the net. Seeing her father's calm expression, Yu also didn't dare to get too close. She only called out in a low voice, Father. Then she lowered her head, not daring to look at them. Xianyuanmo's looked at the 2 children in front of him. He didn't have to worry about his son, but his daughter was very naughty. If Ping Jean didn't pay attention, he didn't know what she would sneak out to do. Just like this time, if he didn't teach her a lesson, she wouldn't be afraid. After calling out to her father, she didn't see any response from him. As a result, little Yu didn't dare to speak and only stood there quietly with her head lowered. Xianyuanmo's walked to the stone table in the middle of the courtyard and sat down. He looked at his daughter and asked, You tell father, why did you want to sneak out to play? Could it be that you didn't listen to father's words? Chapter 4295. Xianyuanmo's didn't say anything and just looked at her quietly. Seeing that she lowered her head and didn't say anything, he stood up and walked out. At the same time, he instructed Lang Hua, take them back. As soon as he finished speaking, he walked away first. Daddy. Yu looked up, her eyes filled with helplessness. After watching his father leave, little Mukin stepped forward and held Yu's hand. His little face was full of seriousness. Little sister, Daddy is worried about you. You have to be obedient and good. Big brother, I just thought that we would go back in a while. She said in a small voice and looked at them helplessly. Lang Hua rubbed her head and said, All right, let's go back first and talk about it later. You don't have the strength to protect yourselves and it's easy to get into trouble. Next time, you can't do this again. Yu lowered her head and responded. This time, seeing that her father was angry, she really remembered this matter in her heart. Because Xianyuanmo's went back first, they didn't go with him. Therefore, when they reached the residence, Yu's footsteps couldn't help but become slower and slower. It's okay, go and apologize to your father. Remember this lesson and he won't be angry. Lang Hua comforted her gently. But Daddy is so angry. Does he not want you anymore? Does he hate you She raised her little face and looked at Lang Hua pitifully. Children are sensitive and their hearts are fragile. Seeing her father, who had always doted on her, fling his sleeves and leave with a dark face, she felt uneasy and helpless. She didn't know what to do. Little sister, I'll go with you. Little Mukin said and stretched out his little hand to pat her head. Then, he held her little hand. Let's go, big brother will go with you. It's okay. Lang Hua stood in the same place and watched the two children walk forward hand in hand. He couldn't help but reveal a smile and walked slowly behind them. In the main courtyard, Xianyuan Mose was reading a book. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw the two children enter, but he didn't look up. He just sat there quietly and continued to read the book in his hand. Just as the two children were about to enter, Hui Lang, who was standing outside the door, awkwardly looked at his master inside, then walking to the side of you, he said, You, your father punishes you by grounding you, you go with Uncle Hui Lang. The two children were stunned when they heard this. They seemed to have never imagined that the matter would be so serious, and they couldn't help but look at Lang Hua behind them with pleading eyes. When Lang Hua saw this, he took a step forward and glanced inside. He lowered his voice and said to Hui Lang, Are you restricting Yuver's feet? Did the Yama Lord say how long it would last? Master said 3 days. Hui Lang continued, Furthermore, he also asked you, to copy 100 characters. Hearing this, Lang Hua didn't know what to say, so he could only say to you, since it's like this, you go with Hui Lang. Knowing that she was wrong, you, didn't dare to say more. She could only obediently follow Hui Lang and leave. Mukin, you come with me. Lang Hua motioned and led him away. After watching them leave, Xianyuan Mose put down the book in his hand and stood up with his hands behind his back. He slowly walked out and looked at the sky, and his heart couldn't help but sigh. Chapter 4296. On the other side, Fengzhou did not know what was happening in Xianyuan Mose. She was practicing in the space, and Du Fan and the others were dealing with the matters outside. In the blink of an eye, a few days had passed since the news was released. The figures of devil cultivators had already appeared in the city. However, due to the instructions of Du Fan and the others, everything in the city was as usual. No one attacked the devil cultivators, only secretly watching and paying attention. On this day, after receiving the news from the city lord, Du Fan came to Fengzhou's courtyard. He wanted to tell her about the devil cultivators, but she was still in closed-door training. Therefore, he took Yi Feifei and Wang Yu out of the city lord's mansion, ready to catch all the devil cultivators in one fell swoop. Ling Shuang stayed in the courtyard to guard. Young Master Du, those people have been gathering in that dilapidated house for a few days. We have been keeping an eye on the people who are watching. Those people haven't done anything. I think there are at least 20 of them. Everyone should be here. City Lord Jiang said in a low voice. From the information they had gathered, there were only about 20 or so devil cultivators. Other than those who had died in the Qilin Mountain, it seemed that there were only about 20 or so devil cultivators left. It would be easier to wipe them all out in one fell swoop. However, they did not know who would emerge victorious once the two sides clashed. Very good. This time, we must catch all of them in one fell swoop. Do this later. Du Fan also lowered his voice and told him the plan. Okay, I know. Lord Jiang responded and followed them all the way to the place. When they arrived at the place they were watching, he took them to see City Lord Gu and the others. Du Fan listened to them talk about what they had found in the past 2 days while staring at the devil cultivators. He saw that the devil cultivators were all above the Yuanying realm, and there were 23 of them. If these people joined forces, it would be difficult for them to deal with them. Therefore, he followed the original plan and told Yi Feifei a few words. Then, he let Wang Yu and her go to another place to lie in ambush and wait for the best time. When night fell, one of the Yuanying realm cultivators went forward according to the plan. When he was about to jump over the dilapidated courtyard, he was discovered. "Who is it?" A cold shout came. The two devil cultivators immediately looked in the direction of the Yuanying realm cultivator. Seeing the figure turn and run, they immediately chased after him. The one who led the two devil cultivators out was the cultivator surnamed Lei. At this time, he felt a strong murderous intent behind him. He had to run desperately to the place where he had set up the ambush, of course. The two devil cultivators did not expect an ambush, so when they chased after him and entered an alley, an arrow shot, a dark arrow shot and hit one of the devil cultivators. Shio! When the sharp sound of airflow fell, one of the devil cultivators groaned and his body instantly froze in place. A sharp arrow containing spiritual power pierced through his body and flew back to Yi Feifei's hand. She put the bloody arrow back on the bowstring and shot it almost at the same time, hitting the other person. Two groans sounded one after the other. In the blink of an eye, the two devil cultivators died at Yi Feifei's hands. Chapter 4297. Why hasn't there been any movement after so long? One of them felt that something was not quite right. He glanced at the few people beside him and said, "You guys go and take a look. Be careful." The other three people looked at each other and headed in that direction. Not long after they left, City Lord Jiang walked out from the shadows. When he saw the three devil cultivators, he turned around and ran. When the three devil cultivators saw this, they naturally could not let him go. They immediately chased after him. "Stop!" In the shadows, Yi Feifei aimed at the people who were chasing after him. He aimed his arrow at one of them and released it. The sharp arrow shot out with a whoosh. When the three of them heard the sound, they immediately dodged. However, after they dodged the first arrow, the second arrow that came right after was much faster than the previous one. It was to the extent that they were injured by Yi Feifei's arrow before they could even fight him head-on. Hiss! One of them sucked in a cold breath. As the sky was gradually darkening, the surrounding environment was not in their favor. Hence, they wanted to retreat. However, just as they retreated, the arrow that was hidden in the shadows shot out once again, carrying with it the aura of death. Puff! A sharp arrow unexpectedly pierced through the heart of one of the devil cultivators. The devil cultivator stood there stiffly and spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes widened in shock as he looked in front of him. His mouth was slightly agape. He did not dare to believe that a dignified fairy like him would die at the hands of a cultivator who was not as powerful as him. In the alley, a murderous aura mixed with the smell of blood permeated the air. It was somewhat horrifying in the night. On the other side, in the house, a few people felt that something was not right. They kept retreating and looking around vigilantly. However, other than the night sky and the rustling of the night wind, there seemed to be nothing special. "Follow me and take a look," one of the devil cultivators said. He did not let one or two people go forward. Instead, he led a group of people forward. Just as they were about to leave the courtyard, a figure suddenly leaped onto the wall from outside. He stood there facing the night wind and stared at them below. "What are we going to look at?" Du Fan held a fan in one hand and gently fanned his chest. The other hand was behind his back. He had a gentle smile on his face as his gaze fell on the devil cultivators. Du Fan. Someone recognized him and could not help but cry out in alarm. His expression changed greatly. Du Fan is here. The ghost doctor must be here too. They looked around and searched for the terrifying ghost Dr. Fingzhou. Du Fan gently fanned himself with the fan in his hand as he sneered, "I don't need my master to deal with all of you. We are more than enough." His gaze swept across the devil cultivators as he said, "How do you want to die? I can fulfill your wish. He's alone. Kill him." One of the demonic cultivators said, calming the fear in his heart. He immediately held his sword and charged forward, wanting to kill Du Fan. However, he did not expect that Du Fan's strength was much higher than theirs. Chapter 4298. For Du Fan to have such strength at such a young age, it was truly inconceivable in their eyes. Not to mention dealing with those 20 or so devil cultivators. Even if another group of them came, Du Fan would be able to deal with them himself. They watched in the dark and saw that he acted so fast that no one had a chance to react. The devil cultivators around him died at his feet one by one. When there were only 2 people left, they thought he would kill them directly. However, they didn't expect that he would directly break their chins, abolish their cultivation, and break their hands. Only then did he knock them out on the ground. Seeing this scene, they were stunned for a moment. They looked at each other and walked out. "Young Master Du, this is." "Take them back for interrogation," Du Fan said, and then said to them, "Please help me take these 2 people back." "That's not a problem." They nodded their heads and carried him back. "Big Brother Du, those people over there have also been dealt with." Yi Feifei rushed over and stopped beside Du Fan. "Then let's go back. We've captured 2 of them alive. Let's go back and interrogate them," Du Fan said as he glanced at the 2 of them. "Okay." Yi Feifei and Wang Yu responded and followed him and Lord Jiang back, leaving the other people to clean up the traces on the ground. In the dark night, calmness was quickly restored. The night wind blew gently, blowing away the smell of blood in the air. In the dungeon, the 2 devil cultivators were handcuffed. The poison hidden in their mouths had been cleaned, but their chins were still open. They were still unconscious and had not woken up. Du Fan told people to look after them and then left. He planned to wait until dawn tomorrow and let his master personally interrogate them to see if he could get information about the Devil Lord from the 2 devil cultivators. The next morning, Fingzhou, who was cultivating in the space, finally came out. As soon as he came out of the space, he saw Du Fan and others sitting in the courtyard. Seeing this, he couldn't help but raise his eyebrows and ask, "Why are you all here? Is something the matter?" "Mistress, we've already cleared out the gathering place of the devil cultivators last night. We've annihilated more than 20 devil cultivators, but we've left 2 alive. We're waiting for Mistress to personally interrogate them." Du Fan's gaze fell on her as he spoke. He originally thought that if his master didn't come out today, he would call her out. Now that he saw that his master had come out, it was just right. Upon hearing his words, Fingzhou was slightly surprised. "Oh. Annihilated?" "Yes, we've killed more than 20 people. I'm guessing that these are the only ones who came here, because other than that, there aren't many traces of demonic cultivators." Fingzhou nodded. "Very good. Where are the 2 survivors? Take me there." "Yes, Master, this way," Du Fan said as he led the way. When they arrived at the dungeon, only Fingzhou and Du Fan followed them in. Even Lord Jiang and Wang Yu wanted to follow them in, but were stopped outside by Ling Shuang. "Just wait outside. Mistress doesn't like too many people when she's interrogating," Ling Shuang said indifferently. After his voice fell, he no longer looked at them. Hearing this, Yi Feifei also stood outside and didn't go in. Chapter 4299. In the dungeon, Fingzhou looked at the 2 unconscious demonic cultivators. Seeing that their cultivations had been crippled and their jaws had been severed, she flipped her palm and took out 2 pills. Let them take this. She gestured and handed the 2 pills to Du Fan beside her. After Du Fan took the pills, he stepped forward and stuffed them into the 2's mouths, at the same time connecting their jaws. Because of the pain, the 2 woke up from their unconscious state. When they slowly opened their eyes and regained consciousness, the first thing they saw was the beautiful ghost Dr. Fingzhou dressed in red. When they saw her, the 2's pupils shrank and fear flashed across their eyes. However, in the next moment, they thought, since they were already in this state, could it be that there was something worse than this? When they thought of this, they felt relieved and the fear in their eyes dissipated. Fengzhou was in no hurry to ask and only looked at them quietly. As time passed, she slowly said, "Perhaps you don't know. The people who came here are all dead. Only the 2 of you are still alive." Hearing this, the 2 demonic cultivators' hearts trembled and they lowered their eyes in silence. They didn't know that the ghost Dr. Fingzhou was here. If they knew, they wouldn't have come here to die. With your strength, you can't be considered important subordinates by the Devil Master's side. The ones in charge of you should be the Devil Master's protector, right? Fengzhou asked slowly, her voice light and unhurried. Yes, we are the left protector's subordinates. The 2 demonic cultivators couldn't help but speak. As soon as they spoke, they were shocked and looked up at Fengzhou in shock. Although you are not the Devil Master's subordinates, you are still the left protector's subordinates. You should know where the Devil Master is hiding. She paused and looked at the 2 who were biting their lips and refusing to speak. Blood seeped out from the corners of their mouths and their pale faces became even paler. Their eyes were unfocused, determined and wavering. Is it hidden in some deep mountain or forest? Or in some valley? Fengzhou walked closer and continued to ask softly. It's in. The 2 of them looked at her in front of them. Looking at her beautiful face and listening to her gentle voice, their minds gradually became blank. However, their mouths uncontrollably revealed the Devil Master's hiding place. Fengzhou's eyes flashed when she heard the 2 of them mention that place. She was originally worried that the 2 of them would also be bound by the blood curse. However, it seemed that the 2 of them were not bound by the blood curse. Otherwise, they would have lost their lives the moment they said that. After getting the information he wanted, Fengzhou glanced at Du Fan and said, "Clean it up." Then he turned around and walked out. Du Fan nodded. After she left, she walked towards the 2 men and ended their lives with her own hands. When City Lord Jiang and the others who were waiting outside saw Fengzhou come out, they couldn't help but quickly step forward and ask, "Miss Feng, how is it?" Fengzhou glanced at him and the corners of her lips curled up slightly. "City Lord Jiang, don't worry. There aren't many demonic cultivators who sneaked into this world and they are all dead now. There won't be any more demonic cultivators coming here in the near future." As she spoke, she looked up at the sky and said, "After a while, even if they want to come, they won't be able to." Chapter 4300. Fengzhou pursed her lips and smiled, saying, "Naturally, it's because soon, this world will no longer be without a master." Finished speaking, she stepped forward. Hearing this, several people's hearts trembled, unable to hide the excitement in their eyes. Did she mean that she would be in charge of this world? If their world had such a powerful ruler like her, it would naturally be their blessing. Du Fan and Ling Shuang followed back to Fengzhou's courtyard. Yi Feifei's Wang Yu guarded outside the courtyard, while Du Fan and Ling Shuang entered the room. "Master, what do you plan to do now?" Du Fan asked. Fengzhou pondered for a moment, then said, "I'll find a time to lay down spiritual power and boundary formations in this world. This way, we can go back even without the help of the nine-tailed fox. When we go back in the future, we'll see if Luo Yu and the others are willing to take charge of this world. Good. Du Fan nodded and asked, Master, is there anything we can help with? Fengjiu smiled and said, there's no need for that. Now that my strength has recovered to its peak, my spiritual power has strengthened a lot after these days of closed-door cultivation. It's more than enough to take back this world. Seeing this, Du Fan and Ling Shuang looked at each other and smiled. It seems that it won't be long before we can go back. It's been almost a year since we came out. I think the two little masters have grown up a lot. Hearing them mention the two children, Fengjiu smiled and said, a few days ago, the two little guys used the communication jade card to send me a message. Let's deal with the news here as soon as possible and go back to give them a surprise. Yes, then we'll go and prepare first. The two bowed and then retreated. On this day, Fengjiu was not in a hurry to go out, but entered the space to cultivate again. Early the next morning, she flew up into the sky alone and leaped into the clouds. Standing among the clouds, looking down at the world below, she saw a vast expanse and everything became so small. She raised her eyes and looked ahead. Between the layers of clouds, white clouds floated, and in the distance, the morning sun was slowly shining through the clouds onto the ground. The morning breeze blew, and her red hair and red clothes fluttered in the wind. She stood with her back to the morning sun and her hands formed an ancient and complicated seal. She softly chanted, and her spirit force and powerful mental force spread out from her body. In Infinite City, City Lord Jiang and the others were talking to Du Fan. Does that mean that the few of you are going to leave? Gu Cheng's City Lord asked. His face was filled with reluctance. That's right. It was an accident that we came here, but there was a pleasant surprise in the midst of the accident. Now that the matter is settled, it's about time for us to leave. Du Fan smiled and said slowly. Will you come again in the future? Will we have a chance to meet again and have a drink together? Ha ha ha, my master will be the master of this world. This world will no longer be without a master. In the future, even if my master is not in charge of this place, it will be under her command. Therefore, you don't have to worry about anything happening in the future. Even if something happens, we will solve it. As for whether we can meet again, it will depend on whether we are fated to meet again. Chapter 43:01. As he spoke, he waved his hand, and a few elixirs flew out and landed in their palms. This is a gift from my master to all of you. This elixir can help all of you enter the fairy realm steadily. After you become a fairy realm powerhouse, all of you have to do what you are doing now. You have to restrain the descendants of your clans and refrain from doing anything that harms the common people. Otherwise, when we meet again in the future, we will personally cripple all of your cultivations and banish your clans to the mortal world. Hearing this, the few of them were shocked. When they received the elixirs in their hands, their expressions became solemn. Yes, we will bear this in mind. After they finished speaking, they carefully put away the elixirs. It was also at this moment that they felt a rumbling sound coming from the sky. When they looked up, they saw that the clouds were tumbling. Layers of white clouds were surging like waves in the sea. The people below were amazed. What's happening now? What's wrong with the clouds in the sky? Are they going to turn back tonight? Don't. It wasn't easy for us to have the distinction between day and night. We don't want it to turn back now. It doesn't seem like it. Look at the clouds. Isn't there a red figure there? No, the aura in the air is changing. It's like there's something else. Everyone in this part of the world could feel the different changes in the world they were in. Some of the commoners and ordinary cultivators didn't quite understand what was going on. Some of the powerhouses from the clans and some of the stronger cultivators felt the fluctuations in the air. They could vaguely guess what was going to happen. Therefore, they didn't cry out in alarm. They just held their breaths and looked up quietly. As time passed, a loud rumbling sound came from the clouds. It was as if a powerful aura and pressure had enveloped the sky. A barrier that they couldn't see seemed to be quietly forming. Rumble. Crack. The sound of thunder rang out, and a flash of lightning flashed across the sky. In the next moment, drizzles fell from the sky like threads. The rainwater covered every corner of the world, nourishing the entire land. It's raining, it's raining. The people below were cheering as they watched the rain fall on their bodies. To the people in this part of the world, rain was extremely rare. The perennial heat had caused them to lack water. Now, the rain gradually became heavier. This lasted for 2 hours, and the people in this part of the world were cheering. The sound of thunder and lightning didn't stop. Until 2 hours later, the rain gradually became thinner and finally stopped. At this moment, the dark clouds in the sky seemed to be pushed aside by a pair of hands, revealing the dazzling smiling face of the sun. A 7-colored rainbow even from one corner of the sky to the other, forming a huge arch bridge. Ah! Look, it's a rainbow. What a beautiful and big rainbow. There's a rainbow actually appeared. Chapter 4302. Because of the distance, the people below could not see clearly whether the red figure in the sky was a man or a woman, nor could they see the person's appearance. They only knew that the red figure standing on the rainbow was very beautiful. Below in Infinite City, in the City Lord's mansion, Du-Fan smiled when he saw the scene in the sky. He cupped his hands to Lord Jiang and the others and said, "My master is calling us. We have to leave now. See you again. See you again." They hurriedly returned the salute. "Let's go." Du-Fan looked at Ling Shuang, Yi Feifei, and Wang Yu. "Okay." They responded and followed him into the sky. They kept flying until they reached the rainbow. Then they followed Fingzhou and walked to the other side of the rainbow. Their figures completely disappeared into the clouds, half a month later, in Azure Demon City. When Wang Yu came to the gate of Azure Demon City again, her heart could not help but soar. "I've been gone for so long. Finally, I'm back." Fengzhou looked at Azure Demon City and was a little surprised. He said, "Why is the gate closed in broad daylight? And no one is going in or out of the city?" "Something is wrong," Du-Fan said, looking at the closed gate in front of him. At the same time, his divine senses penetrated the gate and scanned inside. Hearing what they said, Wang Yu suppressed her excitement and joy. She said with a straight face, "Yes. Normally, the city gates wouldn't be closed during the day. I'll go and have a look first." While speaking, she quickly stepped forward and wanted to open the gate, but found that it was closed from the inside. She banged on the gate and shouted, "Open the gate, open the gate. Get out of the way." Du-Fan stepped forward and patted Wang Yu on the shoulder. Wang Yu looked back at him and retreated to the side. Du-Fan turned his palm, and a stream of air formed in his palm and fiercely struck forward. With a loud bang, the thick gate collapsed with a rumble. However, when the scene beyond the city gate entered their eyes, their pupils involuntarily shrank. They saw that the ground was littered with corpses, including old people, women, children, and practitioners. Among them, some seemed to have been dead for a long time, and their bodies had rotted. Some seemed to have died not long ago, and their blood was still dripping between their fingers. As far as the eye could see, there were at least 200 corpses on the street, and the shops that used to be bustling with noise and excitement were now in tatters. There was no trace of the familiar aura of the past. Who did this? Wang Yu's eyes were bloodshot, and blue veins appeared on her fists. He did not expect to see corpses strewn all over the place when he returned less than a year after leaving this place. Even though the people who died were not his relatives, the sight of them being cruelly killed made the anger in his heart and the blood in his body clamor and boil. He wanted to find an outlet to vent his anger. Chapter 4303. However, the man was seriously injured and lost too much blood. Even though Fingzhou held his breath for him, he just opened his mouth and swallowed his breath without saying a word. Seeing this, before Fingzhou could speak, Wang Yu rushed forward. Her worried and anxious voice came from the wind. "I'll go back home and have a look." "Let's go," Fingzhou said and rushed forward. She also wanted to know what had happened here. However, when they walked forward, they saw Wang Yu, who was one step ahead of them, was blocked by the bounded domain. She was standing there anxiously waiting for Fingzhou and the others. When she saw them coming, she quickly stepped forward and said, "I don't know what happened here. The bounded domain is blocked. I can't get in." Fingzhou and the others looked over and saw that the area in front of them was protected by a bounded domain formed by a strong airflow, forming a transparent protective cover. Unlike here, there were not so many corpses in the bounded domain. Instead, they did not see a single person. No, there were people. A group of people was patrolling from not far away. Maybe they saw them and were coming this way. Inside the bounded domain, the middle-aged man who led the team saw Wang Yu and Fingzhou and the others. He was surprised and said, "Wang Yu, why are you here?" "Uncle Lin." Wang Yu could not hide her joy when she saw him. Then she asked, "Uncle Lin, what happened in the city? Why did so many people die? How are you? How are my family members? Are they all right?" Fingzhou glanced at the middle-aged man. He was the master of the family they met in the Cyan Demon Forest. He seemed to have heard from Du Fan that Wang Yu had been with them for a long time and had fallen in love with the daughter of the master of the Lin family. Therefore, the two of them had an oral marriage. "Let's not talk about it for now. You guys wait here. I'll call 2 more people over and work together to open a hole in this barrier for you guys to come in," he hurriedly said and turned around to leave. At this time, Du Fan's voice came from behind him. "Don't bother." As Du Fan spoke, he walked forward and waved his hand. A hole as wide as a person appeared in front of the barrier. He looked at Fingzhou and said, "Master, let's go in first." Fingzhou nodded his head and walked forward. At this time, he heard the Lin family head inside the enchantment exclaim, his face full of shock, "Quick! Come in quickly! Those people are here again." The few of them turned around and saw a group of demonic cultivators dressed in black robes walking quickly towards them. Their swords dragged across the ground, creating sparks from the friction. The demonic aura on their bodies was extremely heavy. As their aura surged, the black mist visible to the naked eye also surged around them. Demonic cultivator. Du Fan gestured for them to enter before turning to Fingzhou. "Master, I'll go meet them." Originally, there shouldn't be any demonic cultivators in this place. However, not only were there demonic cultivators, but they had also killed so many people in the city. Even if they hadn't encountered such a thing, they would still have to do something about it. Fingzhou stood in the enchantment and looked at the demonic cultivators. He frowned slightly and said, "The aura on these demonic cultivators is not right. Be careful." "Master, don't worry," Du Fan replied. Just as he was about to close the enchantment, he saw Yi Feifei come out and stand beside him. Chapter 4304. "Follow me," Du Fan said, waving his hand to close the bounded domain. At the same time, he opened the fan in his hand with a swish. Fengjiu retracted his gaze and looked at family head Lin, asking, "What's going on in the city?" Family head Lin glanced at Fengjiu and remembered that Du Fan had called her master just now. He said, "As you can see, these evil cultivators came out of nowhere. They killed everyone they saw more than a month ago and have been lurking in the city. There are so many of them that the aristocratic families in the city came up with a way to set up a bounded domain to stop them. Even so, they can't hold on for long. These evil cultivators came in a strange way. Some of them were even mercenaries we were familiar with, but somehow they all turned into evil cultivators. Moreover, they didn't seem to recognize us. They killed people as soon as they appeared. I don't know what's going on. All we can do is to protect our own areas and fight against them. However, there seems to be some extremely powerful evil cultivators among them. This morning, we received news that a family's bounded domain in the west of the city was broken. How about my family? Are they all right?" Wang Yu asked. "Not very well." Family head Lin shook his head and said, "Your grandfather was seriously injured in a fight with the evil cultivators and is still lying in bed. I don't know what happened to your father. He came out a few days ago, but I heard that he hid in his room and didn't come out. I don't know what's wrong with him. As for your family, in the face of such a disaster, there are no other troubles. After all, there are elders in the family suppressing them." Listening to his words, Wang Yu's heart sank. She said, "I'll go back and have a look." Then she quickly rushed out. Fengjiu watched Wang Yu leave and then said, "The Azure Demon City is a big city with a lot of people. This kind of bounded domain can't protect many people, right? What's more, if they are all in the bounded domain, there will be problems with food shortage. Indeed, the current situation is to treat the symptoms but not the root cause," family head Lin said. Fengjiu pondered for a while and said, "Tell them that I'm going to the Wang family." "All right." Patriarch Lin responded and watched her leave with the black-clothed woman. Then, he looked outside the barrier and was stunned. Half of the dozen or so devil cultivators had been killed by the two of them, and the remaining few were also injured. Two of them wanted to escape, but unexpectedly, the woman pulled open the bow in her hand and shot out an arrow. The arrow pierced through the heart of the first person and shot towards the second person. Killing two birds with one stone, one fatal strike. Thinking about how many people had died at the hands of these people during this period of time, and then seeing how the two people in front of him easily dealt with more than 10 devil cultivators, he only felt his heart tremble. Seeing that they had opened the barrier and walked in, he hurriedly went forward. "The two of you, your master has gone to the Wang family." He hurriedly followed the instructions of the woman in red. "Thank you." The two of them clasped their hands and bowed before walking towards the Wang clan. In front of him, Wang Yu ran quickly to the door. The guard guarding the door saw him and shouted in surprise, "Young master! Young master is back!" Chapter 4305. Wang Yu ran to her grandfather's yard. As soon as she entered the yard, she saw Lin Jilin before she saw her grandfather. "Jilin, why are you here? You're back." Lin Jilin greeted her in surprise and held her arm with both hands. "How are you? How have you been these days?" Wang Yu held her hand and said, "I'm fine. I'm fine. As soon as I returned to the city, I saw something happened in the city. I met your father and knew that my grandfather and father's situation was not very good, so I came back to see them. A lot of things have happened in the city during this time. Now almost no one dares to walk around outside. I heard from my father that your grandfather was seriously injured. Thinking that you were not at home, I came to help take care of him," she said softly. Hearing this, Wang Yu was moved. "Thank you. Don't talk about it. Go in and see your grandfather first. I have to ask the kitchen to boil the medicine. She indicated. Okay. Wang Yu said and walked quickly into the room. On the other side, Fengjiu came to the Wang family. Because he had lived in the Wang family before, he walked to the Wang family's old ancestors' yard. However, a figure quietly left in front of them. She raised her eyebrows and recognized that it was Wang Yu's father. However, his aura. Master, his aura seems to be a little strange. Ling Shui also saw the figure in front of him and frowned slightly. Something is indeed not quite right. His aura is somewhat similar to that of those demonic cultivators, Fengjiu said. When she saw the people in front of her looking back, she and Ling Shuang moved to the side. Could it be that he's cultivating demonic arts? Ling Shuang asked. Fengjiu shook his head. It's not possible. Although the master of the Wang family is not bold, he is not the kind of person who practices evil magic. Moreover, his aura is a little strange. It doesn't seem like it. She pondered and felt that the aura of these people was a little strange, as if they had been contaminated by something. Ling Shuang said, previously, Master Lin said that he had shut himself in for many days. Now he probably heard that Wang Yu had returned home, so he ran out to see. You see, he is so secretive in his own home. There must be something wrong. Let's follow them and see, Fengjiu said, and then walked forward with Ling Shuang. Wang clan head quietly entered the courtyard. Seeing that his son, whom he hadn't seen for a long time, had returned safely, he finally relaxed. He looked at him and saw that everything was fine. He wanted to leave quietly, but he didn't expect that his son, who was talking to his father by the bed, would suddenly attack him with a shout. Who is it? Wang Yu thought that someone had sneaked in and wanted to do something bad to his grandfather, so he immediately attacked the place where he found the strange aura. Unexpectedly, when he rushed out, he saw that the man was his father. Father. Startled, he quickly retracted his hand. However, because of the force, he forcefully retracted his hand. His body swayed slightly before he managed to stabilize himself. Father. Why are you like this? Wang Yu also noticed that there was something wrong with his aura at a glance. He couldn't help but go forward, but he was stopped by him. Don't come over. Wang clan head hurriedly shouted and stepped back to prevent him from approaching. After a pause, he said, I took a team to patrol a few days ago, and my hand was scratched by a devil cultivator. He took off his coat and pulled it down, revealing his black-purple arm. Looking at the arm, Fengjiu frowned slightly. It turns out that the devil aura in your body is emitted from this. No wonder you're different from ordinary devil cultivators. But, how could this be? Chapter 4307. Hearing this, Wang Yu couldn't help but ask, what should we do? Is there any way to cure it? Let's deal with it first. Fengjiu said, taking out a thin knife and medicine from the space. The main problem is the virus in the wound. I have to study it to see what it is. Looking at the thin blade on the table, the fire was lit, and the water was prepared. The head of the Wang family asked, Dr. Gue, I can't feel my arm anymore. He was afraid that she couldn't cure his injury even if she used the knife now. Fengjiu smiled and said, so, I don't need painkillers. After cleaning her hands, she burned the thin blade on the fire for a while, and then helped him clean the swollen and black wound. At the same time, she said, Wang Yu, you clean your hands and squeeze the blood and pus out of your father's wound. Okay. Wang Yu answered. After cleaning her hands, she helped her. As soon as the knife went down, blood and pus came out. Wang Yu did as she said, squeezed the blood and pus out of the wound, and then cleaned the wound. Fengjiu cleaned the thin blade and burned it with the fire. After Wang Yu wiped the wound clean, she removed the rotten and black flesh. At first, the head of the Wang family did not feel anything. Even when the knife was cutting his flesh, he did not feel the slightest bit of pain. It was not until later that his hand gradually began to feel, and cold sweat began to seep out. He looked back and saw that a large piece of flesh had been removed from his arm, revealing the bones in his arm. However, the bones were not the normal beige color. Instead, they seemed to have been corroded. There were scattered black spots on the bones. Fengjiu helped him clean the wound, applied the medicine to stop the bleeding, and bandaged it. She said, "As you can see, part of the bone is necrotic, and the virus has infiltrated into the bone marrow of the body." While speaking, she washed her hands in the water. Ling Shuang opened the window to let the wind blow away the smell of blood inside. "Give this medicine to your father." Fengjiu handed an elixir to Wang Yu and said, "You guard him in case of any accident. The devil qi in his body is strange. If it breaks out, he will lose his mind. Also, don't be hurt by him. If you are scratched by him or your wounds are stained with his blood, you will also be infected." Fengjiu instructed and glanced at the father and son. "Also, before the problem is solved, it's best not to go out." Fengjiu and Wang Yu left, leaving only the father and son there. Seeing her father's pale face and cold sweat from the pain of the wound, Wang Yu said, "Father, let me take you back to rest. You don't have to worry about the family. I'll keep an eye on it." "All right." The Wang clan had nodded and allowed him to lead him to the main courtyard. When Fengjiu and Ling Shuang arrived at the garden, they saw Du Fan and Yi Feifei coming over, so they immediately stopped. "Master." The two saluted and came to her. "Let's go over there and have a seat." Fengjiu motioned and walked towards the pavilion. Chapter 4308. On our way back, we asked around with the people in the city who had come into contact with devil cultivators. We found out that there are two groups of devil cultivators. One group is the original devil cultivators, and the other group was infected with devil qi later on. The former group rarely makes a move, and the ones slaughtering devil cultivators in the city are mostly those who have lost their minds. Listening to his words, Fengjiu pondered and said, "Wang Yu's father was injured after fighting with those people, and now the situation is not very optimistic. Moreover, the devil qi on his body is strange. I suspect that these evil cultivators may have some kind of virus." She looked up at Du Fan and said, "Go and check it out. Don't alert the enemy. Figure out the matter first. In addition, don't let your skin be cut when fighting with those evil cultivators, or if there are wounds on your body, don't get infected with other unknown blood. This virus is extremely powerful, so you have to be careful." "Okay, I know. I'll go now." Du Fan answered and turned to go out. "Master, what should I do?" Yi Feifei asked. Fengjiu glanced at her and said, "Go to the city and pay attention to whether there are any strange people. If there are people infected with the virus, control them as soon as possible. In addition, tell the family heads who are patrolling the city to pay attention." "Yes." Yi Feifei answered and left first. "Let's go. Let's go back." Fengjiu stood up and motioned for Ling Shuang to follow him. He went to the courtyard to rest, ready to study the way to crack the virus. Yi Feifei went to the city to find family head Lin and told him what her master said. After that, she walked around the city to see if there were any people infected with the virus as her master said. However, most of the people in the boundary were hiding, and only some patrolling people were walking around. She didn't see anything unusual. However, when she passed by a remote house, she faintly heard the sound of crying and begging for mercy. She was surprised and walked towards the house. In the alley, there were two cultivators guarding the door of a house. Inside the house, there were faint sounds of crying and begging for mercy, but the two cultivators seemed to be used to it. "What's going on inside?" Yi Feifei asked as he walked forward. When the two of them saw her, their eyes lit up. One of them even whistled and said frivolously, "Oh. Where did this little girl come from? What happened? Are you looking for us?" Yi Feifei had been to many places with Feng Zhou and had seen many people and faces. When these two people said that, she immediately raised her hand and slapped them. Paw! The force seemed very light, but it caused the two cultivators to fall to the ground. Half of their faces were swollen. The two cultivators covered their swollen faces and were about to curse when they felt that something was wrong. They looked at the woman and found that her aura was different from before. If she looked like a delicate little beauty before, then the aura and pressure of this woman were like a demon. Her eyes were murderous and her body was full of pressure, making people tremble in fear. Who are you?" Chapter 4309. Open the door. Yi Feifei coldly shouted. The two cultivators looked at each other, cold sweat dripping down their foreheads. They could only go forward and push the door open. They originally wanted to leave after pushing it open, but they didn't expect to be yelled at to go inside. The door of the room was pushed open, and the cries of despair from inside entered her ears. She walked forward and kicked the door open, only to see a cultivator pressing down on a young girl who was crying in despair. The girl's clothes were torn, revealing her snow-white skin. "Damn it! Who let you in?" The cultivator saw the two cultivators who were guarding the door come in and immediately cursed. However, when he saw Yi Feifei, his eyes were filled with amazement. "Where did you guys find this kind of trash? This little beauty is really not bad looking." The cultivator stared at Yi Feifei with lustful eyes. After releasing the girl he was pressing down, he came forward to lift Yi Feifei's chin. Looking at the scene in the room, Yi Feifei's face was already as cold as ice. However, when she saw the cultivator in front of her recklessly moving forward to lift her chin, she immediately raised her leg and kicked him hard in the crotch. "Little May!" Hiss! Before the cultivator could finish his words, his crotch was kicked hard. In an instant, he was in so much pain that he bent down and covered between his legs with his hands. His face turned from red to white, and he was in so much pain that he broke out in cold sweat. In the end, he couldn't even stand and slowly knelt down. Pain, it hurt so much. The man gritted his teeth and said word by word. After he finished speaking, his eyes were filled with killing intent. "Catch this bitch for me. Catch her." The angry shout rang out, but the two cultivators lowered their heads in fear and shrank to the side, not daring to take half a step forward. The city is facing a disaster, but you used this opportunity to be so reckless and disgusting. You really deserve to die. Yi Feifei coldly shouted and kicked out again, sending the cultivator flying into the corner of the wall. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Pooh! The man fell down, heavily injured, and couldn't get up for a long time. Yi Feifei walked forward and took a piece of clothing from the side and draped it over the young girl's body. "Don't be afraid. If anyone dares to treat you like this in the future, remember to stand up and say it loudly." She glanced at the cultivator hiding in the corner and said, "You can't deal with him, but there are plenty of people who can." The young girl had stopped crying the moment Yi Feifei came in. She was still in a state of shock as she looked at the scene in front of her. Only when she heard Yi Feifei's words did she regain her senses. Her voice was trembling with sobs as she replied, I understand. Thank you. Where's your family? Why are you alone?" Yi Feifei asked. "They're dead." They were killed by demonic cultivators. I'm the only one left. The girl's eyes reddened as she lowered her head. Hearing this, she was silent for a moment before she said, "Then live well, even live for them." With that said, he patted the young girl's shoulder and said to the two cultivators, "Take that person away." She didn't want to kill them directly. Instead, she wanted to hand them over to the people in charge of the city. She wanted them to kill the chicken to warn the monkey, so as to deter those who had evil intentions. Chapter 43:10. He did not alarm those people. Instead, he quietly walked around the city, looking for the figures of those demonic cultivators. When he saw a group of 20 to 30 demonic cultivators breaking through a clan's barrier and fighting with the clan's people, a woman was killed, and a child who had just learned how to walk fell among the corpses and cried. Seeing that the clan's people did not care about the child at all, a knife flew out from the hand of a demonic cultivator and shot towards the child. He immediately flew out, blocking the sharp knife with the fan in his hand, and at the same time, picked up the child. Woo! Woo woo! Mother! Mother! The child cried and reached out to pounce on the corpse of the woman on the ground. Seeing this, Du Fan sighed in his heart and handed the child to an old man at the side. Take good care of this child. As soon as he finished speaking, his figure flashed and he killed the devil cultivators in front of him one by one. With his strength, the strength of these devil cultivators was nothing in front of him. In less than half an incense stick's time, there were 20 to 30 devil cultivator corpses on the ground. The people of that clan looked at this scene in shock. The old man who was carrying the child was the first to come back to his senses and hurriedly stepped forward. Thank you, young master, for saving us. My He family will never forget this in our lives. Please accept our respect. As the old man spoke, he knelt down with the child in his arms. When the others saw this, they hurriedly knelt down as well. Seeing this, Du Fan said, "All of you, get up." After gesturing for them to get up, he said, "Your barrier has been broken, and seeing that your clan has suffered heavy casualties, there are only these few people left. If you stay here any longer, it will be very difficult for you to survive. It's better to go to the barrier in front and stay there." The old man smiled bitterly, "Young master, it's not that we don't want to go, but we can't. Our He clan is just a small third-rate clan. There are very few experts in the clan, and the barrier is not strong enough to protect the people in the clan. The place where the Wong clan is located is where the large clans in the east of the city are located. We originally wanted to go there to take refuge, but even though it's also a city, the road from here to there is not close, not to mention those devil cultivator are eyeing us covetously, we really have no choice." Seeing this, Du Fan said, "I'll send you there." Hearing this, everyone was overjoyed. "Thank you, young master." "Thank you." Du Fan looked at the corpses on the ground and said, "There's no time to deal with these corpses. Moreover, these demonic cultivators are infected with a virus. If you're injured by them, I'm afraid that you'll be infected as well. Therefore, set these corpses on fire. You should also check your wounds. If you're injured by a sword, it's fine. However, if you're scratched by those demonic cultivators or if your wounds are stained with demonic cultivators' blood, you'll have to be treated in isolation." After saying this, Du Fan saw that their expressions had changed. He could not help but think that these people had just fought with the demonic cultivator. Other than their own blood, there was also the blood of the demonic cultivator. Furthermore, they already had wounds on their bodies. If that was the case, for a moment, his brows furrowed. If that was the case, it would be troublesome. "Young master, dare I ask, what is that virus? Was it really that contagious? What will happen if you are infected?" The old man asked. Chapter 43:11. Hearing his words, everyone looked at each other. Those who were injured stood to the side, while those who were not injured stood to the side. They did not know what he wanted to do, so they all looked at him. Du Fan's gaze swept past them. He paused for a moment, then said, "I'm busy right now, so I can't do anything to you. I don't know if you've been infected, so before that, those who are injured can wait in this residence. I'll send those who are not injured to the barrier that those clans are guarding." Just as he finished speaking, he saw that someone was about to speak anxiously, so he raised his hand to stop them. "Don't be anxious, let me finish." The originally anxious crowd had no choice but to swallow their words when they saw him like this. They looked at him with hopeful eyes, hoping that he could point them out a way to survive. "You know the situation in the city now. If I bring all of you back, I can't guarantee that those clans won't kill all of you who are injured or infected in the worst-case scenario. However, if those who are not injured go, I believe that there will be a place for them to stay." His gaze fell on those who were injured, and said, "You don't have to worry. I'll personally set up a barrier around your clans. Those demonic cultivators won't be able to break through my barrier. My master is already researching the antidote. I believe that he'll be able to find a solution soon. Right now, this is the best arrangement for all of you." Hearing his words, everyone looked at each other. In the end, it was the old man who stepped forward and said, "All right, we'll listen to Master's arrangements." Thus, Du Fan sent those who were injured back to their clans for treatment and bandaging their wounds. At the same time, he set up a barrier for them and gave them some instructions. Only then did he bring those who were not injured to where those clans were located. On the way, as everyone expected, they encountered two groups of demonic cultivators. Fortunately, Du Fan was there, so they were safe. Otherwise, they would not have been able to make it here alive. "Master Lin, these are people from one of the clans in the city. Their barrier was broken, so I'll send them here to settle down. Please make the arrangements." Du Fan said to Master Lin, who was patrolling inside the barrier. At the same time, he opened the barrier and let the people behind him in. Seeing this, the Lin family head said, "Young Master Du, don't worry. I will make arrangements for them." After Du Fan helped them settle down, he turned around and left, heading towards the city. Patriarch Lin, something has happened. Not far behind, a cultivator hurried over. Patriarch Lin glanced at him and was startled. He hurriedly asked, "Steward Luo, what happened?" "Lin family head, that Miss Yi." The person came forward and whispered into his ear, quickly explaining the matter. Hearing his words, Patriarch Lin's face was as cold as ice. "This is outrageous." He could not conceal the anger in his voice. He flicked his sleeves and was about to leave when he paused. He glanced at the people Du Fan had brought with him, then beckoned for a middle-aged man to come over. "Bring them down and settle them down. Tell them about the current situation here. I have something to take care of. When I return, all of you must be vigilant. Don't let your guard down." As soon as he finished speaking, he immediately strode away with Steward Luo. Chapter 43:12. Isn't that the He clan's instructor? Why was he captured here? Did he commit some crime? Who is that lady beside him? He's the He clan's instructor. He's been patrolling this area with his men. I haven't interacted with him before, but I heard that he's very good at fighting. If he's good at fighting, why would he be tied up and kneeling there? It was this lady who captured him just now. Who knows what's going on? I saw the He clan's people running back to report just now. I reckon that the He clan's patriarch will be here soon. Although he's the He clan's instructor and not a member of the He clan's main family, capturing the He clan's instructor here and making him kneel there is a bit of a slap to the He clan's face. I reckon that the He clan's people won't let this go easily. Hearing those people's discussion, Yi Feifei didn't say anything. She just waited, waiting for someone to deal with this matter. If it wasn't for the fact that she wanted to give a warning to those who wanted to take advantage of the chaos to do evil, she wouldn't have bothered to bring him here. She would have killed him in that alley long ago. Lady Yi. Patriarch Lin hurried over with the steward. Seeing Yi Feifei standing there with a cold face, he said, I already know about this matter. How do you want to deal with it? Yi Feifei looked at him and said, this person has evil intentions. Leaving him alive is also a disaster. Kill him in public to deter those who want to take advantage of the chaos to do evil. Hearing this, Patriarch Lin hesitated for a moment. Kill him in public? Isn't this a bit too much? Too much. Yi Feifei sneered, if the person he extended his hand to today was your daughter, would Patriarch Lin still feel that it's too much? Patriarch Lin's expression changed and said, I know. Lady, you trust me. Leave it to me to deal with it. All right, I'll watch from the side. Yi Feifei said. She retreated to the side and watched as he walked forward and came to the side of those people. He raised his voice and said what the three people had done in public. She watched as the surrounding people's discussion turned into astonishment and anger. They actually did such a thing. They've really thrown the face of us cultivators. It's not too much to kill this kind of person. They're really too despicable. Taking advantage of the chaos to do evil. Even if this kind of person dies 100 times, it won't be a lot. Kill him. We must kill him. The surrounding people were furious, especially those who had daughters and younger sisters at home. Their faces were filled with anger, and they wished they could step forward and kick them. Some people's eyes flashed slightly, and they shrank back, trying to reduce their presence. What big mistake did my He family's instructor make? Why would Patriarch Lin have to personally kill him? A dignified voice sounded. The crowd naturally opened up a path. Chapter 43:13. Perhaps, Master He, you've made a mistake. Otherwise, based on Master He's family style and his thunderous methods, how could he allow his subordinates to take advantage of the chaos to bully a weak woman? Don't you think so, Master He? Master He, who had initially been furious, frowned when he heard this. His sharp gaze swept across the crowd and landed on the three kneeling cultivators. He saw that the three of them had lowered their heads and their bodies were trembling slightly. They did not even dare to raise their heads to look at him. Master He clenched his fists tightly behind his back. Taking advantage of the chaos. Bullying a weak woman. Master He inquired. That's right. If Master He doesn't believe me, you can ask him yourself. However, after this, I will definitely kill this person on the spot. This will also let everyone in the city know that the city is now facing a great disaster. If anyone dares to play such underhanded tricks in the dark, they will end up like this. The head of the Lin family said in a deep voice. His voice was calm at the beginning, but towards the end, his voice was filled with a fierce and murderous aura. It was very frightening, so much so that the surrounding people immediately became quiet. They stopped talking and just watched quietly. Master, 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 save me. I don't want to die, I don't want to die. The cultivator, who had been trembling with his head lowered, seemed to have awakened from his stupor. He threw himself at Master He's feet and kowtowed, I know I was wrong, Master, I know I was wrong. I deserve to die, but I don't want to die yet. Please save me, Master, spare my life. I'll kill the demonic cultivators, I'll kill the demonic cultivators. Don't let me die like this. However, Master He's face was cold. He stared at the man who was kowtowing and begging for mercy. He raised his hand and slapped the top of his head, killing him instantly. A loud bang was heard, followed by a blood-curdling scream. The surrounding people could not help but take a step back. They looked at Patriarch He in astonishment. They did not expect that he would kill Patriarch He without saying a word. Master Lin is right. There's no point in keeping people like this alive. If anyone dares to commit the same crime again and bully the weak, they will end up like this. His gaze swept across the crowd and finally stopped on Yi Feifei. However, he only glanced at her once before he turned around and left with his people. Seeing that Lin Fan had directly killed them, it saved them a lot of trouble. After the Lin family head looked at the corpse, he walked towards the two people who were paralyzed with fear and crippled their cultivation. Then, he ordered people to take them away and clean up the corpses on the ground. Perhaps it was because this bloody scene was too shocking that everyone was unable to regain their senses for a long time. If this had happened in the past, they probably wouldn't have dealt with it so seriously. However, it just so happened that the situation was like this, and there was a woman of unknown origin watching over them. At this moment, some of the people who originally had evil intentions saw this scene and all of them stopped thinking about it. They didn't have the guts to commit a crime in such a situation. Even if they wanted to do something, they had to wait until the current situation in the city was over before they dared to think about it again. Otherwise, once they were caught, they would probably end up in the same situation. Since there is no chance of victory, why should we throw our lives away? We only need to leave those infected with the virus behind. Even if we don't fight Fengzhou's group and leave those poisonous creatures here, I believe that it won't be long before this place becomes a ghost town. Since we all agree to retreat, then let's arrange everything properly. Also, we have to bring that thing away. Who knows, it might come in handy in the future. Chapter 43:15. On the other side, Ling Shuang came to the courtyard after receiving Du Fan's message. Seeing that the door to her master's room was closed, she walked up and knocked on the door. Master. Fengzhou was researching the antidote for the virus. When she heard Ling Shuang's voice from outside, she didn't even raise her head and said, "Come in." Knowing that she was researching the antidote, she wouldn't disturb her unless it was something urgent. Since she was here, it must be something urgent. Master, Du Fan sent a message. Please give me your orders. Ling Shuang walked in and explained the situation to her. After hearing Ling Shuang's words, Fengzhou said, "Let Du Fan do it. Also, go and lend him a hand." Then Master's place. Ling Shuang hesitated. If she left, there would be no one to guard Master's place. Fengzhou smiled, "Don't worry about me. This is the Wang residence. Without my orders, they won't come in. Go. Don't miss the opportunity." Yes. Only then did Ling Shuang respond. She turned around and walked out. Her black figure flashed and quickly disappeared into the night. At the same time, Du Fan received Ling Shuang's message and knew that her master had asked her to come over and help. At the same time, she also wanted him to eliminate the demonic cultivators. Thus, she planned to find an opportunity to make her move. When she returned, she saw that the demonic cultivators had formed a group and were heading towards the back. Seeing this, she quietly followed them. Compared to the demonic cultivators outside, these demonic cultivators were the leaders. Even if they wanted to make a move, they should be the ones to make the first move. However, she heard them whispering along the way. Their expressions were serious, as if they were saying something. She immediately focused and listened carefully. When we brought that vicious beast here, the virus that the Devil Lord planted in it wasn't as strong as it is now. Now that the virus is fermenting in its body, I'm worried that we won't be able to get close to it. Don't worry, it's trapped in the black iron cage. It won't be able to escape. We just need to bring it back to the spaceship. After all, it wasn't their contracted beast. If they wanted to carry the poisonous beast away, they could only carry it. It was indeed a little troublesome. Ferocious beast. A ferocious beast with a virus. In the dark, Du Fan's eyes flashed. After knowing what it was, he felt that he couldn't let them go to the ferocious beast. He didn't want them to take advantage of the chaos and release the ferocious beast, which would be troublesome. Immediately, he released his aura and opened the fan in his hand with a swish. As he waved the fan in his hand, a cold light as sharp as a blade flew out with a swish and attacked the dozen people. Danger! Some people sensed the killing intent behind them and immediately shouted to dodge. However, there were also some people who couldn't dodge in time and died on the spot. Ah! Screams and cries of alarm rang out. The residence, which was originally considered peaceful, was suddenly thrown into chaos. Especially when the leader saw the person who appeared in the night, his expression changed and he cried out in alarm, "Not good. It's Fengzhou's powerful subordinate, Du Fan. Run!" Du Fan stood high in the night sky and looked down at them from above. When he heard the leader's words, he laughed coldly. "You didn't take the path to heaven when there was a path to hell, when there was no door to hell, when there was one. You want to escape after causing so much chaos in Azure Demon City. Do you think you can escape?" Chapter 43:16. When the devil cultivators heard that it was Du Fan, one of Fengzhou's subordinates, their expressions changed. The panic in their hearts caused them to immediately think of escaping. Thus, in the midst of their panic, corpses were struck by the air blades and fell to the ground. Streams of blood spurted out from their bodies and splattered all over the ground. The aura of death spread through the air. The smell of blood and the terrifying killing intent caused everyone to tremble in fear. However, after the leader of the devil cultivators calmed down and regained his senses, he saw that Du Fan was alone and immediately shouted, "Calm down. Everyone calm down. He's alone. If we join forces to deal with him, we won't have a chance of survival." When they heard the word survival, the devil cultivators who had panicked quickly calmed down and retreated. They surrounded the leader of the devil cultivators, but even so, their eyes were still filled with fear. "He's so strong. If we join forces, do we really have a chance of survival?" A devil cultivator lowered his voice and asked. His voice was trembling and doubtful. "If we fight, we might have a chance of survival. If we don't, only death awaits us." The leader of the devil cultivators shouted sternly. He held a sharp sword in his hand and his eyes flashed. He lowered his voice and said, "Later, one of you will go and release the ferocious beast locked in the black iron cage. We will try our best to delay him. As long as we release the ferocious beast, he will definitely not be able to care about us." When they heard this, everyone's eyes lit up. Why didn't they think of this? That ferocious beast was incomparably ferocious and had astonishing battle prowess. Only their demon lord could subdue it. If it was released, Du Fan would not be able to care about them. At that time, they could take the opportunity to quickly escape. "All right. I'll go release it." A devil cultivator replied in a low voice. Du Fan naturally heard their conversation. He frowned and was about to step forward, but at this time, the devil cultivator in front of him also formed a circle to welcome him. "Hold him back. The devil cultivator in the lead shouted, and the attack in his hand also flew towards Du Fan. You overestimate yourself. Du Fan snorted coldly. With a wave of his fan, a powerful wind attacked and sent the people in front of him flying. Bang, bang, bang. One by one, the devil cultivators were sent flying and landed heavily on the ground. Some of them crashed into the corner of the wall. The blood in their bodies surged and they spat out a mouthful of blood. Just one direct exchange of blows was enough to let them clearly understand the disparity in strength between the two sides. Against such a strong cultivator, not to mention exchanging blows, even if they used all their strength, they would not be able to block his attack. He's a divine king. A devil cultivator widened his eyes in disbelief. He could not believe that Du Fan was a god king expert. Is it strange to be a divine king? I've already said that they were personally trained by the ghost Dr. Feng Jiu, and with the help of those heaven-defying pills, there's nothing strange about them being so powerful. Du Fan's a demon cultivator. Of the devil cultivators of the devil cultivators of the ferocious beasts of the ferocious beast of the devil cultivators of the devil cultivators of the beasts, however, so what if divine king powerhouse is? The ferocious beast captured by the demon lord is extraordinary. Furthermore, it now has a fatal poison in its body. As long as it's released, forget about Du Fan. Even if the ghost Dr. Fengzhou comes personally, he won't be able to do anything. Chapter 43:17. Ah! Roar! Du Fan's figure paused. Following that furious roar, he felt an extremely powerful and terrifying aura coming from inside, reverberating in the air. Most of the devil cultivators were startled, their eyes filled with fear. One of them said in a trembling voice, He's dead. The leader of the devil cultivators leaned against the wall and gasped for breath. He tried to use his chi to heal his wound so that he could stand up. After hearing the devil cultivator's words, he sneered, You don't think that he would have a chance to live after releasing that beast, do you? If there was a chance for him to live, why would he let him go? It must be known that that was an extremely vicious and bloodthirsty beast. Once the black iron door was opened, the barrier set up by the demon lord would be broken, and the seal that sealed the beast would also be released. No matter how fast that person ran, he would definitely not be able to survive under the claws of that beast. Furthermore, he never thought that the beast would pounce on him the moment it came out. Therefore, his death was destined from the moment he opened the black iron cage. What are you still standing there for? Take advantage of this opportunity to escape. The devil cultivator in the lead supported himself against the wall and stood up. At this moment, a cold light shot towards him. He was so shocked that he rolled on the ground, narrowly avoiding the fatal blow. However, a deep gash appeared on his thigh. His skin and flesh split open, and fresh blood gushed out. Hiss! He sucked in a breath of air, one hand pressed against his thigh as he cried out in pain. At the same time, he glared angrily at Du Fan, who had returned to deal with him. I said, none of you will be able to escape. As Du Fan spoke, he glanced at the devil cultivators. Just as he was about to step forward and get rid of them, he heard the roars of ferocious beasts coming from inside, accompanied by the sound of heavy footsteps. Du Fan immediately stared vigilantly at the courtyard door. Run! Quick! As if he had thought of something, the leader of the devil cultivators was so shocked that his face turned pale. He ignored his injured leg and wanted to run. Roar! With a furious roar, a huge beast that looked like a lion walked out from inside. Its entire body was filled with a strange black aura, and its ferocious eyes were bloodthirsty. Its mouth was stained with blood, and even the fur around its mouth was stained with the color of blood. It stuck out its purplish-black tongue and licked the blood from the corner of its mouth. It bared its teeth and drooled as it stared at the demonic cultivators and Du Fan in front of it. It took a step forward and opened its sharp claws, which were as sharp and terrifying as the crescent moon. A powerful pressure spread out from its body, accompanied by the black demonic aura, which was very frightening. Du Fan stared at it cautiously. His eyes were stern. This ferocious beast was extraordinary. Even with his strength as a god king, he felt pressured before its sharp claws and presence. His vital energy began to ripple because of the demonic aura from the ferocious beast. This was no ordinary ferocious beast. How strong was its combat prowess? Therefore, he didn't attack immediately. Instead, he observed. Roar! With a furious roar, the figure shot out like a ghost. It was unbelievably fast. The target of the vicious beast was not Du Fan, but a demonic cultivator closest to it. By the time the surrounding people reacted, the huge beast had already pressed its claws against a demonic cultivator's body. Chapter 43:18. Crack. The sound of bones breaking could be heard. The dying demonic cultivator's body twitched, and his head drooped down weakly. That ferocious beast's sharp claws lightly swiped and flipped that person over. Its sharp claws swiped down from his chest to his abdomen. Wherever the claws swiped, his clothes were torn apart and his flesh was torn apart. At the same time, blood gushed out and his internal organs were also exposed. Blurg. A demonic cultivator watched this scene as the ferocious beast dug out the demonic cultivator's internal organs and lowered its head to eat them. Even though his hands were stained with blood, he had never seen such a bloody and disgusting scene. He could not help but vomit. The surrounding demonic cultivators turned pale when they saw this scene. They were so shocked that their bodies trembled. They could not even stand up, let alone escape. Du Fan frowned as he watched. This ferocious beast was so bloodthirsty and cruel. If it was allowed to escape, who knew how many people would die? Thinking of this, the spiritual energy in his body surged. The fan in his hand condensed a blade of air and attacked the ferocious beast. Swoosh! Roar! The ferocious beast, which had lowered its head to eat, roared angrily as if it was dissatisfied with being disturbed. It raised its head and glared at Du Fan. At the same time, it exerted force in its hind legs and quickly pounced forward. Its sharp claws swiped at Du Fan. Swoosh swoosh. Bang! Roar! The battle between the man and the beast was fierce and fast. The demonic cultivators who were originally escaping did not have time to escape and died under the pressure of the man and the beast. The corpses were either lying on the ground or leaning against the wall. Their eyes were wide open even in death as they stared at the scene in front of them in horror. As for the other demonic cultivators in the house, they had wanted to escape the moment they realized that the situation had turned for the worse. However, just as they were about to leave the house, they ran into Ling Shuang, who had come to their aid. Trying to escape. Die! Ling Shuang held a long sword in her hand. In the pitch-black night, her tight black clothes made her seem as if she had merged into one with the night. Her appearance was something that the devil cultivators had not expected. Her strength was not something that the devil cultivators could match. In less than half an incense stick's time, Ling Shuang had cleaned them up. Ling Shuang swept a glance at the corpses lying on the ground and the pool of blood on the ground. She lifted her eyes and looked towards the house. Hearing the roars of beasts coming from inside, as well as the turbulence of the battle, she was worried that Du Fan might have encountered something troublesome. She immediately gathered her energy and headed inside. When she saw the ferocious beast that Du Fan was fighting, her eyes narrowed. Its gigantic body and the speed at which it leaped was so fast that it was almost impossible to capture its figure. In particular, the black aura on this ferocious beast made people feel uneasy. "I'll help you," Ling Shuang said as he raised his sword and rushed forward. Du Fan looked back at him and shouted, "Be careful. This ferocious beast carries a virus. Its combat power is extraordinary." Hearing Du Fan's words, Ling Shuang responded even more carefully, "I know." The two of them joined forces to deal with the ferocious beast. This ferocious beast had been imprisoned for a long time and was already extremely ferocious. In addition, it had used its body to cultivate poison. Now that it was bloodthirsty and they had to avoid being injured, it was difficult for them to attack. Chapter 43:19. With their strength, even if it was a sacred beast, the two of them would still be able to keep it in check. However, this beast's strength had already reached the level of a sacred beast. Furthermore, it had been fed with poison, causing its strength to increase exponentially. Its strength was many times stronger than normal, and it had the virus in its body. As such, even if they were not at a disadvantage, they would not be able to keep it in check and kill it. "We've taken the antidote pill that Master refined before. For 10 years, we'll be immune to all poisons. Why don't we try it?" Ling Shuang looked at Du Fan and said. "Even so, it's still a little risky. After all, this virus is different from before." Du Fan frowned and said. Looking at the beast in front of them, he said, "This beast's black demonic aura carries the aura of the ancient Black Lotus. I'm worried that if we can't withstand the virus, not only will we not be able to help Master, we will also be a burden to Master. At that time, if something happens to the two of us due to the virus, the consequences will be unthinkable." Hearing this, Ling Shuang fell silent. Thinking of the situation of the Wang family head, if the two of them were to become like that, then Master would really be too busy to deal with it. "Then what do you have in mind?" she asked. Looking at the beast roaring and gnawing on the corpses of the demonic cultivators, Du Fan's eyes flashed and said, "Since we can't fight in close range, then we'll attack from afar." "Let's do this." After listening to his plan, Ling Shuang nodded. "All right." As soon as she finished speaking, she took a deep breath and dashed to the other side before attacking the ferocious beast. The beast that was gnawing on the corpses felt the sharp sword aura coming and jumped to avoid it. With a low roar, it pounced towards Ling Shuang. On the other side, Du Fan tossed the fan in his hand into the air. He gathered qi in his hands and poured it into the fan. The fan instantly grew several times bigger. After spinning in the air, it attacked the ferocious beast. The two of them were engaged in an intense battle with the beast. At the same time, Fengjiu was coming over. She had heard the roar of a sacred beast in the Wang family and was worried that something might have happened to Du Fan and Ling Shuang, so she wanted to come over and take a look. Before she could reach them, she could already hear a roar coming from the darkness of the night. Just from the sound alone, she knew that Du Fan and Ling Shuang had not yet taken down the roaring beast. For such a powerful beast to appear in such a place, there was no other explanation other than the help of a demonic cultivator. She raised her qi and sped up. When she got closer, she saw the corpses of the devil cultivators strewn all over the ground, as well as the stench of blood that filled the air. She looked up into the air and saw Du Fan's fan enchanted artifact above the mansion. With a whoosh, it slashed downwards like a sharp blade. The ferocious beast seemed to have dodged it. The air blade surging from the fan slashed downwards, causing the ground to tremble. Although they couldn't see what was inside, they could hear the sound of impact and rumbling coming from inside. The battle was very intense. She gathered her chi and jumped onto the wall. When she saw the scene inside, her eyes narrowed. Chapter 43:20. Bang! Roar! There was a loud crash, followed by a beast's roar. Its sharp claws attacked the nearby Ling Shuang. At this moment, Du Fan's fan slashed across the beast's back. It was as if a sharp knife had sliced through the beast's skin and flesh, causing fresh blood to gush out. After the beast roared, its speed at the Ling Shuang slowed down. Ling Shuang flew up on his sword. The sharp sword in his hand flew out towards the beast's forehead. With a whoosh, it pierced through the beast's body at a speed too fast to be heard. Bang! Roar! The beast's body exploded. Blood and flesh splattered all over the ground. Its shrill cry echoed in the air, lingering for a long time. The moment the beast exploded, Du Fan and Ling Shuang dodged. After all the blood and flesh fell to the ground, they looked at Fengzhou, who was standing on the wall. "Master!" The two called out. "Are you hurt?" Fengzhou asked. Her gaze fell on the two of them. "No," the two of them said as they came to her side. "Master, that ferocious beast was the source of the virus," Du Fan said. Fengzhou's gaze turned and fell on the ground. She said thoughtfully, "There's also the aura of the ancient Black Lotus." It seemed that the Devil Lord's strength had increased significantly after obtaining the ancient Black Lotus. Furthermore, he had mixed the ancient Black Lotus with the virus to harm the world. It was obvious that the danger he posed was not to be underestimated. "You two get rid of all the demonic cultivators in the city. Isolate the infected people. I need to go back and research the antidote. If there's anything you can't solve, come back and tell me," Fengzhou instructed. After glancing at the two of them, she turned around and left. She was originally worried that they wouldn't be able to handle it, but now that the problem had been solved, she naturally had nothing to worry about. The demonic cultivators had been eliminated, and the source of the virus had been eliminated. The most important thing now was to research the antidote. The two of them complied and watched her leave. Then, they set the house on fire and rushed to other places. When Fengzhou returned to the Wang family, he saw Wang Yu hurrying in before he went to the yard. "Ghost doctor, my father's entire body is burning up. His eyes are red and veins are popping out all over his body. He's in a lot of pain. Quickly come with me to see him," Wang Yu said anxiously. She stopped Fengzhou, who was about to return to the courtyard, and quickly told her about her father's situation. "Let's go." Fengzhou responded and moved to the main courtyard, followed by Wang Yu. When he arrived at the main courtyard, he heard a series of fierce roars coming from inside. It sounded like a beast, yet not a beast, yet not a human. Fengzhou paused and slowly walked into the room where the voice came from. "I saw that my father's situation was not right, so I tied him up with the bundled immortal rope. But he looks like..." Wang Yu looked worriedly at her father, who was tied up on the bed. Fengzhou stepped forward and saw that her father seemed to be a beast. Two long sharp teeth grew in his mouth. The skin on his face changed color slightly. His eyes were blood red. On the back of his hands, veins were popping out and his nails were growing longer. He looked like a beast. He wanted to struggle but could not break free. Chapter 43:21. With the sprinkling of the green light, the Wang family head, who was originally restless, gradually relaxed. His blood-red eyes slowly closed, as if he had fallen into a deep sleep. The devil chi on his body gradually dissipated. Fengzhou's forehead exuded a trace of sweat. It seemed that mobilizing the cyan lotus consumed a lot of spiritual power. She withdrew her hand and saw that the evil spirit had weakened a lot. Then she turned to Wang Yu and said, "The evil spirit on his body is not gone. You look after him. I'm going to refine medicine." Okay. Wang Yu saw that her father had fallen into a coma, and her ferocious expression eased a lot. She was also relieved. After sending her out, she went back to the room to guard. After returning to the room, Fengjiu set up a bounded domain and entered the space to adjust her breath. When her spiritual power recovered, she tried to refine the antidote. A few days passed. She did not come out of the space and did not know what was going on outside. She was focused on refining the antidote, so she did not know that the situation of those people outside was getting worse because of the outbreak of the virus. Until one day, when she came out of the space with the refined antidote, she saw Ling Shuang guarding in the yard. She asked him and learned about the current situation in the city. Du Fan and Fei Fei went to the city to help. In the past 2 days, some cultivators went crazy and could not stop them from hurting people. Some of them were killed. Ling Shuang told her about the situation. Hearing this, Fengjiu said, "I'll refine the antidote. Let's try the effect on family head Wang first and then make plans." Then she stepped out. Ling Shuang followed her to the main courtyard and handed the antidote to Wang Yu. "Try this antidote." "Is this the antidote?" Wang Yu asked. Fengjiu glanced at her and said, "It depends on the effect. It may not be able to cure him. I have to observe the reaction after taking the antidote and then improve it. But you can rest assured that even if it can't cure the virus in your father, it can ease it a little. It won't be harmful. I believe in you," Wang Yu said, taking the antidote and feeding it to her father. Fengjiu watched, observing the reaction after taking the antidote and the effect of the antidote. At this time, in the city, 2 people on swords came from the sky. As the 2 people approached, the people in the city saw that they were 2 young men. "Who are you? Why did you come to Azure Demon City?" The middle-aged man who was patrolling in the city asked in a deep voice and raised his hand, signaling the team behind him to be on guard. The people who had come were Qi Kong and Luo Yu. Both of them had heard about the appearance of devil cultivators and had come to take a look. They saw that the entire city was on high alert. Everyone was on high alert. Moreover, the air was filled with devil qi and the aura of death. Seeing this, the 2 of them looked at each other. They did not descend from the flying sword. Instead, they stood on the flying sword with their hands behind their backs as they looked down at the middle-aged man who is, in Qi Kong asked in a deep voice. The pressure of an expert spread out from his body and covered the area below. Chapter 43:22. Why are you guys here? Just as the legs of the people below were trembling, Du Fan's surprised voice came from not too far away. When they heard Du Fan's voice, the middle-aged man and the others relaxed. When they felt the pressure on their bodies dissipate, they quickly stabilized their trembling legs and stood up straight. When Qi Kong and Luo Yu heard Du Fan's voice, they were also stunned. When they looked in the direction of the voice, they saw Du Fan holding a fan in his hand and Yi Feifei beside him. The 2 of them were striding towards them. Why are they here? Qi Kong and Luo Yu looked at each other, then descended from the sky and headed towards the ground. When they got closer, Luo Yu couldn't wait to ask, "Why are you 2 here? Where's Master? Is Master here as well?" Du Fan smiled, the fan in his hand gently fanning himself. "Of course. We're here, so Master is naturally here too. But why are you guys here?" "We received news that there were demonic cultivators here, so we came to see what was going on." We didn't expect to meet you guys before we even saw the demonic cultivators. Luo Yu said happily, you guys have been gone for almost a year. We really missed you guys. As he spoke, his gaze swept over Yi Feifei's body. When he saw that her strength had improved a lot compared to before, he couldn't help but nod his head. He patted her shoulder and said, not bad, not bad. It seems that you have also worked hard during this period of time by Master's side. Your strength has increased a lot. Yi Feifei was also very happy to hear this. She bowed towards the two of them and called out, Big Brother Qi, Big Brother Luo, it's great to see you guys. Where's Master? Qi Kong asked, then glanced around, what's going on here? Master is with the Wang family. Come, I'll take you to see Master and explain to you what's going on. As Du Fan said this, he stepped forward and put his hand on Luo Yu's shoulder, then said to the middle-aged men, they're our brothers. You guys continue, we'll take these two with us. Oh, okay. The middle-aged man came back to his senses and hurriedly responded. After watching them walk away, he raised his sleeve to wipe the sweat on his forehead. On the way, Du Fan briefly told Qi Kong and Luo Yu about what had happened here. He also asked about his family and the recent situation of his two young masters. They chatted as they walked. When they arrived at the gate of the Wang family, Du Fan stopped and said, this is the place. Master is concocting the antidote. Logically speaking, he should be done soon. The two of them nodded and followed them into the Wang family, heading straight for their master's courtyard. Ling Shuang, Luo Yu greeted with a smile. Hearing the familiar voice, Ling Shuang turned around to look at them. When he saw the two of them, he nodded slightly, Master is refining medicine. If there is nothing urgent, please wait for a moment. No hurry. Luo Yu waved his hand and sat down in the courtyard. Du Fan has already told us. We originally thought that we would have to clean up after arriving here, but we didn't expect you to be one step ahead of us and have already cleaned up most of the place. Is everything all right at home? How are the two young masters? Ling Shuang asked. Chapter 43-23. Hearing this, Ling Shuang couldn't help but reveal a smile. Children are always naughty. Since their master isn't by their side, it's normal for them to be naughty. Isn't that so? Let me tell you, Yu sneaks out when we're not paying attention. Last time, the Yama Lord brought them to the city to play, but she sneaked out. In the end, Qingqing, who was taking care of her, was punished by the Yama Lord for neglecting her duty. Yu was also grounded. Luo Yu said as he walked to the stone table and sat down. He poured himself a cup of water and said, now she's more obedient. It seems she's also learned her lesson. He then asked, that's right, what about the two ancient mythological beasts that Master caught? Have you tamed them? And they've been tamed. When Master returns, he can help the two little masters form a contract. Ling Shuang said as he looked at the tightly shut door. Previously, his master had taken the refined medicine to the Wang family head. Not long after, he returned to the room and said that he needed to adjust the medicine. It should be almost done. The few of them chatted in the courtyard, talking about the things that happened in the past few days. They originally thought that their master would come out soon, but they didn't expect that they would wait until the next morning. When Fingjiu opened the door and walked out, he had a relaxed smile on his face. Obviously, the antidote had been refined. Master. The few of them surrounded him and called out. Why are you here? Fingjiu looked at Qi Kong and Luo Yu in surprise. Qi Kong looked at Fingjiu and said, we've been here since yesterday. We heard that there were demonic cultivators here, so we came to investigate. We didn't expect to find Master here. So that's how it is. Wait a moment. I'll take this medicine to the Wong family head and see how effective it is. Later, there's something I need you to do. Fengjiu said, then looked at Du Fan and said, come with me, and tell me what's the situation in the city. Yes. Du Fan replied and asked them to sit in the courtyard for a while, then left with Fengjiu. At this time, Wang Yu was in the main courtyard, helping her father get out of bed. After taking the medicine brought by Fengjiu yesterday, her father's condition was much better than before. But as she said, it wasn't completely cured. But for them, it was good news that the demonic energy in their bodies were gradually reduced, and their bodies were gradually returning to their original state. They could also keep their minds clear. How's the situation in the city now? Is your grandfather's injury better? If you keep guarding me like this, will you be able to handle the family matters? Father Wang asked, a little worried. Father, don't worry. Grandfather's injury is much better. He can sit up, get out of bed, and walk a few steps. Because the ghost doctor is here, they don't dare to act recklessly. I discuss things with the elders of the family every day, so you don't have to worry about the inside and outside. As for the situation in the city, it's not very good. There are many people infected by the virus like you. Wang Yu said, helping him to sit down in the courtyard, and said, 2 days ago, some cultivators in the city lost their minds because of the virus. They killed people everywhere like crazy demons. In the end, they were killed by the 2 family heads who were patrolling the city. Now, some people in the city are separated and locked up, waiting for the ghost doctor to develop the antidote. Chapter 43-24. Yes. Thanks to her. Wang Yu also said with emotion. Because of her, the fate of the Wang family had changed. Because of her, he had seen things that he had never dared to imagine before. Also because of her, his vision had become broader. If he hadn't met her, perhaps at this time, he would still be the same as before. As he was thinking, he saw a red figure coming in from outside the courtyard. He hurriedly stepped forward and saluted, Dr. Ghost. Yes. Fengjiu responded, looked at Patriarch Wang sitting in the courtyard, and said with a smile, it seems that you are in good spirits today. Thanks to Dr. Ghost, my body is finally better. Patriarch Wang said and stood up with the help of the stone table. Wang Yu hurriedly came to his side to support him. Sit down. I brought you the antidote. Fengjiu motioned and walked to the stone table to sit down. Hearing this, the father and son of the Wang family were delighted. Wang Yu hurriedly helped her father sit down and looked at Fengjiu. She turned her palm and handed over a bottle of potion. Patriarch Wang hurriedly took it and asked, do I drink it like this? Yes, take it like this. Fengjiu nodded. Okay. Wang Yu responded and handed the potion to her father. Patriarch Wang took it, unscrewed the lid, and drank the potion in one gulp. Yesterday, when he took the potion, his consciousness was not clear. But now, when he took the potion, he felt a cool feeling go straight down from his throat and spread in his body. He could even feel the cool feeling with a touch of spiritual power flowing through his veins and into his blood. The black demon chi on his body evaporated and left his body bit by bit, disappearing into the air. His complexion gradually returned to normal as the demon chi dissipated. After about half an incense stick's worth of time, the demonic aura on his body had completely disappeared, leaving only his usual spiritual aura. Seeing this, Fengjiu smiled and reached out to feel his pulse. Then he stood up with a smile and said, okay, you will recover in a few days. I have something to do. That's all for now. Then he walked out. That's it. The Wang family head was dumbfounded. Du Fan smiled and said, otherwise, why do you think my master is called the Ghost Doctor? As he spoke, he opened the fan in his hand with a schwa sound and strode out to catch up with his master. Father, I'll take you back to rest. You take a good rest for 2 days. I'll go and see if they need any help. Wang Yu said. After helping her father in, she quickly went out. After Fingzhou returned to the courtyard, he said to Qi Kong and the others, the antidote has been concocted, and its effects are not bad. The situation in the city is not good now. Go and arrange for the people to wait at the entrance of the Wang clan. Upon hearing this, Qi Kong and the others smiled. They immediately agreed and worked together. Ghost Doctor, what can I do to help? Wang Yu followed in and asked. Seeing him, Fengzhou smiled. Of course there is. Take me to your storehouse. After I prepare the medicine, I'll brew the antidote and send it to those people outside the Wang clan. The decoction can also detoxify. Wang Yu was slightly stunned because his father had taken a potion. Chapter 43-25. Hearing her words, Wang Yu immediately took her to the medicine warehouse to prepare the medicine and prepared 2 large pots to boil the medicine. Qi Kong and others went out. As soon as the news was released, those who had been desperate were all ecstatic and came to the door of the Wang family to wait. Yi Feifei, who acted separately, flew to another place where the infected cultivators were locked up. However, she was stopped halfway. She looked at the man who was not a stranger to her and the group behind him, forming a circle around her. Her face darkened as she asked, Patriarchy, what are you trying to do? I heard that your master has developed the antidote. Where do you want to go? Family head. He stared at Yi Feifei as he spoke. This woman disgraced the He family and forced him to kill the instructor of the He family with his own hands. She made the He family a laughingstock in the city. How could he not settle this account with her? Of course, I'm acting on the order of my master to take the cultivators locked up to drink the antidote. Yi Feifei said, holding the bow and arrow at her waist with one hand. I see. However, you can save a trip. A dark light flashed in his eyes and he sneered. What do you mean? Yi Feifei stared at him with a cold face. Because I can give you a ride and save you a trip. As he spoke, his figure flashed and attacked Yi Feifei at an extremely fast speed. Yi Feifei's original strength was not strong. After following Fingzhou, her strength improved little by little. After experiencing a lot of experience and attacks, this kind of improvisation was not a problem for her. She, who had been prepared, took 2 steps back. At the same time, the hand holding the bow at her waist took the bow and arrow and directly pulled it. The psionic power in her palm surged. Even if she did not put the arrow on the bow, she shot out a fierce airflow. Clang! The arrow that she pulled back released a sharp stream of air. That stream of air was like a crescent moon blade as it attacked Patriarchy in front of her. At the same time, taking advantage of the fact that the other party dodged, she stretched out her hand and a golden arrow appeared in her palm. She quickly knocked the arrow and shot it out. Swish! This arrow wasn't aimed at a fatal spot. Instead, it pierced through his shoulder with lightning speed. With a whoosh, it shot towards another cultivator behind him. Hiss! Both Patriarchy and the cultivator behind him gasped. Not to mention the cultivator behind Patriarchy, even Patriarchy himself didn't expect Yi Feifei's speed to be so fast. He also didn't expect the arrow to be so fast that even he couldn't dodge it. With one hand covering the bleeding wound on his shoulder, his expression darkened. Take her down. Yi Feifei was standing 10 meters away from them. When she heard Patriarchy's order, she shouted with a cold face, "Do you know my master's identity? You dare to intercept me halfway, aren't you afraid that my master will take revenge on you?" Ha 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 ha. Patriarchy raised his head and laughed. Suddenly, his laughter stopped. He stared at her coldly and said, "I don't know the identity of your master, but I know that she has a great background and is very strong. But do you know why I brought people here to stop you?" Chapter 43:26. He paused. When he saw that she had pursed her lips and did not speak, he sneered, "I don't need to kill you with my own hands. You'll die a horrible death. Among those infected, some of them are so serious that they can't control themselves. I just need to throw you in and create an accident. Do you think that your master will find out that I was the one who caused your death?" Yi Feifei stared at the malicious Master He and fell silent for a moment. She then said, "You want to kill me just because of that instructor. That instructor clearly deserves to die. Why should you sacrifice your entire He family for the sake of a person like that?" Ha 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 ha. "I won't sacrifice my entire He family. On the contrary, you'll pay with your life because of this. Because you've caused my He family to lose all face. You've caused my He family to be unable to raise our heads in the city. You've turned my He family into the laughingstock of the city." Yi Feifei muttered softly when she heard Master He's bigoted words. Master is right. There are some people who can't be reasoned with. She looked at Master He and said, "You can't kill me because you don't understand my master and you don't understand me either." As she spoke, she called out, "Lightning, come out." Just as her voice fell, the crowd heard a flash of light shoot up into the sky as if a gust of wind was blowing from above. They raised their heads to look and couldn't help but widen their eyes in shock. That's a divine beast. That's an eagle." The lightning eagle flapped its wings and circled in midair. Its sharp eyes stared disdainfully at the people below and asked, "How do you want to die?" Master He widened his eyes in shock and took a step back. He stared at Yi Feifei in disbelief. How could this little girl have a lightning eagle of such a level? His heart couldn't help but sink when he saw the coercion emitted by the lightning eagle. Just who was this little girl's master? How could this little girl, who didn't seem to have much power, have such a contracted beast? What are you still standing there for? Do it. Attack. At this moment, his heart tightened and his entire being was like a taut string. He knew that if he couldn't get rid of this man and beast, he would really have to pay with his entire He family. Thinking of this, he clenched his teeth. He didn't have time to think about it or care about anything else. With a move of his hand, a long sword appeared in his hand. As the spiritual energy in his body surged, it burst out with a sharp edge. Ah! He let out a low shout and charged forward with his sword in hand, attacking Yi Feifei in front of him. Yi Feifei stood there without moving. She looked at Patriarch He who was charging towards her with a murderous aura. She raised her hand that was holding the bow and arrow, and with her other hand, she took out a golden arrow and knocked it on the bowstring. Then, she aimed at the front. The surrounding cultivators came to their senses at this moment. They didn't retreat but charged forward with their swords because they knew that this man and beast would definitely die. Otherwise, they would be the ones to die. A group of people surrounded them but they didn't attack the lightning eagle. Instead, they all attacked Yi Feifei because as long as she died, the lightning eagle wouldn't be able to live either. At the same time, on the other side, Du Fan was slightly surprised when he saw the lightning eagle appear in the sky. After giving instructions to Master Lin, who was traveling with him, he gathered his energy and headed towards the lightning eagle. Chapter 43:27. On the other side, when Patriarchy saw that the situation was unfavorable to him, he no longer hid his strength. Instead, he sneered and took out a palm-sized turtle shell from his space and tossed it into the air. With a flash of light, the tortoise shell instantly expanded, trapping Yi Fei and himself inside at a speed that was too fast to be heard. With a loud bang, dust and smoke filled the air. When the dust and smoke dissipated, the huge tortoise shell was upside down on the ground, and the sound of swords clashing could be heard from inside the tortoise shell. Master! The lightning vulture did not expect that the turtle shell would trap both of them and could not help but cry out in alarm. It flapped its wings and flew down, using its claws to pry open the turtle shell. However, the turtle shell was firmly stuck to the ground. It was worried that Yi Fei, who was trapped inside, would not be a match for that person, so it tried to cut open the turtle shell. However, the turtle shell was incomparably hard. Open this thing! It roared angrily and flapped its wings towards the cultivators on the side. Pooh! Those people were sent flying. Their bodies were thrown more than 10 meters away, but they did not dare to move forward. Instead, they retreated. At the same time, due to the limited space inside the turtle shell, Yi Fei's arrows were not easy to use. Therefore, she could only use her dagger to fight with the other party. However, this was Patriarchy's treasure. He was like a fish in water in here, but she was trapped at every step and could not use her full strength. Not long after, her body was covered in wounds from the fight between the two. Blood dyed her clothes red and her fighting strength was decreasing. You're just a little girl. No matter how good your skills are, could it be that you're stronger than me, the patriarch of the clan? Ha! Let's see what other skills you have in here. Patriarch, he coldly shouted and attacked again. A sharp sword aura mixed with killing intent flew towards Yi Fei. Du Fan came over. When he saw that the lightning vulture was stepping on those people, causing them to spit out blood and be on the verge of death, he was slightly surprised and asked, "What's going on? Where's Fei?" His gaze turned and fell on the strange turtle shell. Upon hearing Du Fan's voice, the lightning vulture could not help but look at him in surprise. "Great, it's great that you're here. Quickly save my master. She's trapped in that tortoise shell, and the human inside wants to kill her." Hearing this, Du Fan's expression changed. He quickly descended from above and arrived beside the tortoise shell. As he approached, he could indeed hear the sounds of battle coming from within. He extended his hand to touch the tortoise shell. This was an extremely rare treasure. It was incomparably sturdy, like a defensive barrier. He immediately circled around it and saw that one end of the tortoise shell could be seen inside. However, there seemed to be a barrier protecting the inside, completely separating the inside from the outside. Fei. Seeing Yi Fei's bruised appearance and the murderous intent coming from the He family head, Du Fan's heart tightened. He immediately condensed his spirit power in his palm and hit Bufang's turtle shell. Bang! There was a loud sound, but the tortoise shell didn't show any signs of cracking. Instead, his palm was rebounded by his own strength, and he was forced to take a few steps back. Seeing this, Du Fan's eyes narrowed. He gathered spiritual power in his palm again. This time, he knew that the tortoise shell would form a protective layer and bounce back the force of his attack. Thus, he directed his spiritual power toward the small opening in front of him. Bang! Chapter 43:28. The heavily injured Yi Fei fell into the tortoise shell and gasped for breath. When Patriarchy saw that Du Fan was trying to break through the tortoise shell's defense, he clenched his teeth and stabilized his body before stabbing his sword towards Yi Feifei. Seeing this scene, Du Fan's heart tightened and he cried out in alarm, "No!" Yi Feifei leaned back and gasped for breath. She watched as he stabbed her with his sword. The wounds on her body were bleeding, and her stamina was getting weaker and weaker. However, at this moment, she let go of the dagger in her hand. Instead, she grabbed the bow at her waist and quickly nocked a golden arrow. Shio! The arrow shot out like lightning towards the center of Patriarchy's eyebrows. That sword strike seemed to have exhausted all of her strength. After she shot out that sword strike, her hand weakly drooped down. As for Patriarchy, his entire body was frozen in place. His eyes were wide open as he fell straight to the ground. Du Fan, who was outside, saw the scene inside. Only at this moment did he feel relieved. He let out a sigh of relief. Only at this moment did he realize that his back was drenched in cold sweat. Following Patriarchy's death, the mark on the tortoise shell also disappeared. With a flash of light, the tortoise shell flew up and landed on the ground. It spun a few times before it stopped moving. Feifei. Du Fan quickly stepped forward to support her. "How are you? Are you all right?" As he spoke, he took out medicine to stop the bleeding and bandaged her wounds. I'm fine." Yi Feifei gasped for breath as she spoke. However, as soon as she finished speaking, she fainted. Seeing this, Du Fan ordered the lightning vulture to return to her space and put away her arrow and dagger. He picked up Yi Feifei and coldly swept his gaze over those people. He didn't say anything and left. What the hell was going on? When he returned, he would carefully settle the score with them. When the cultivators who had been trampled to the brink of death by the lightning condor saw the look in Du Fan's eyes as he left, as well as the death of their patriarch, all of their faces turned pale, and they were unable to regain their senses for a long time. Qi Kong and Luo Yu brought everyone to the Wang clan with the help of the patrolling troops. Just as they were about to check on those who hadn't arrived yet, they saw Du Fan carrying the unconscious Yi Feifei over with a cold expression. "What's going on?" Qi Kong and Luo Yu were slightly surprised. They looked at each other and walked forward. "I'll tell you the details later. I'll take her to treat her injuries first," Du Fan said as he carried Yi Feifei past them and quickly entered the palace. Seeing his nervous look, the two of them raised their eyebrows. Luo Yu joked, "These two seem to have developed feelings for each other. They used to hate each other when they met." Qi Kong smiled and said, "Feelings develop over time. It's not like it hasn't happened before." As he said this, he patted Luo Yu's shoulder and walked towards the other city lords. Luo Yu stayed behind to keep an eye on the people outside, while Qi Kong brought his people to walk around the city. In the palace, after Du Fan sent Yi Feifei back to her room, he went to find Leng Shuang. "I'll have to trouble you to treat her injuries," Du Fan said to Leng Shuang. Leng Shuang looked at Yi Feifei, who was lying on the bed with a pale face and many wounds on her body. He asked in surprise, "Who hurt her? Who would dare to attack them in this city?" "The patriarch of the He clan." Du Fan looked at Yi Feifei on the bed and said slowly, "Take care of her here. I'll have to deal with the He clan." You're tuning in to the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.